Okay, let's look at a real world example here. So I've downloaded from MuseScore a version that somebody made of My Country 'Tis of Thee. Just a quick reminder, if you go to the MuseScore website, you can download MuseScore files for just tons of stuff. So you can just type in My Country 'Tis of Thee if you want and find files that people have made of this, of whatever you want. There's a ton of music here. So I downloaded this file from there. This is someone's arrangement of My Country 'Tis of Thee. Let's hear it, just the first bit, just up to here, of the I Sing, just up to there. And there are two cadential 6/4s in here, in this little part that we're going to hear. So see if you can spot them. Okay, so one of the problems with just downloading a file like this is that it's not always perfect, and we can hear there's some weirdness happening with the rhythms here. Let's figure out what that is, actually, since this is a theory class. These should be the same. Should this one not have a dot, or should this one have a dot? My country 'tis of thee. This one should have a dot. Okay, so I went through and I fixed these rhythms really quick. That kind of screwed up my page formatting, but I had to retype in the words here because I actually had to delete the whole measure to fix that and then re-enter it. So let's hear it again, correct this time. Okay, that's all we're going to be concerned with. Now, let's find our two cadential 6/4s here. So what key are we in? We're in the key of F. So let's just go right to the first one. The first one's going to be right here. What is this chord? C, F, A. That's a 1 chord, right? So if this is going to be a cadential 6/4, then it must resolve to a 5. Well, okay, so two things must happen if we're going to call this a cadential 6/4. One is that it has to be a second inversion 1 chord. So that means the fifth of the chord, F, A, C, the C, has to be in the bass. And it is, okay? So our first thing is true. The fifth of the chord is in the bass. The other thing that has to happen is it has to resolve to a root position 5 chord. So let's look at that. So that means that the C in the bass has to stay a C. That's the only way that can work. So if this is a C, then because it's the 5 of our tonic chord, that also means it's the 5 of the key, and so it has to be the note in the bass of the resolution chord. So that note has to stay the same, in other words. Now you'll notice here, it's an octave here, and here it goes down to a 7th. That's okay. That's totally okay, because check it out. What we have here is a cadential 6/4 with a 7th in it, where the 5 chord is a 5/7. That's totally allowed. So what are our notes here? What they should be is the 5 chord in F, which is C. So C, E, G, and then we have the 5/7 in there also. F. Or sorry, B flat. Totally okay, because remember the key signature. B flat. So that means what we would call this, even though this is a 1 chord, we can call this 5, and then we would call it, if we just call it a 5 without any other text, we are wrong. 6/4, but Well, let's stick with that for a second. So 5, 6, 4, resolving to 5, 3, but that's not the entire picture in this particular case, right? Because we have the 7th. So what we really need to say here is this resolves to 7, 5, 3, which means we can't say 6, 4, 7, 5, 3. If we have 3 numbers here, we have to have 3 numbers here. So because we're showing the resolution, the 6 moves to 5, the 4 moves to 3. So I have to put something up here that says what moves to the 7, right? Well, let's look at how we did it. C, so that's the tonic, or sorry, that's the 5 of the chord, moves to the 7th. So in this case, that would be 8. Because remember, these numbers are not reflecting a tonic chord, they're reflecting a 5 chord. So on a 5 chord, C is 8, and it moves down to 7. So 5, 8, 6, 4, 7, 5, 3. And we would call this whole thing a cadential 6/4 chord. Now there's one more. It's just a couple chords away on the word the. Okay, so let's look up here. We have, our notes are C, A, C, and F. So we have our 1 chord, which would be spelled F, A, C, and then another C in the bass. So we have a C in the bass. So we need that, right? That's one of our things. The other thing we need is our next chord to be a 5 in root position. So our bass note will stay the same, which it does. And is this a 5 chord? Our 5 chord is C. So we need a C, E, and a G, C, and another C. So no 7th this time. So here we would call this a 5, not 8, 6, 4, but just 6, 4, because there's no 7th in our next chord. And then here we would put 5, 3. Now why don't I do this? Why don't I write 5, 6, 4, 5, 5, 3? Other than being kind of a mouthful, that's not exactly accurate, right? Because what we're doing here is we have a 5 chord that we're extending. So we don't really want to say that it's another chord by putting the Roman numeral there. What we're saying is this is a 5, 6, 4 that's resulting to 5, 3. That's resolving, to 5, 3. So it's really all one big chord is what this is saying. Crazy, right? Weird voodoo stuff.